25. Almost perfect. Ribbon Pav, Valka's Crimson Chamber. Come on. Tsubaki presses, her arms crossed and her single eye narrowing. What'll it take for you to tell me where you got it? Would you even believe me if I told you? I groan internally. After a long, tired sigh, and with Hestia already having spilled the info to Hephaestus, I decide to stop dodging Tsubaki's question. Alright. It was me who made them. Tsubaki blinks. Her gaze sweeps over me, lingering on my arms and hands, and then she scoffs. If you're gonna lie, at least make it believable. Your hands are too clean and soft. You don't look like you've touched a hammer once in your life. Her dismissal is fair, given that I've never actually forged anything in my life. But it's still insulting to be doubted so directly. I keep my face neutral and shrug. Believe it or not, that's the truth. If you don't want to, there's nothing more I can say. Her single eye narrows for a moment, then a grin spreads across her face. Alright, say I humor you. How'd you manage it? The sudden acceptance irks me somehow. All the times I dodged the question and made up half-truths, she brushed me off immediately. But now, when I state the truth plainly, she actually entertains it. Is this a first-class adventurer's intuition? There's a problem, though, I don't even know if it's possible to create. The bracelets are easy to make through stomach with GS's help, but actually explaining it is impossible. I can't even forge pure adamantite with my current physical strength, making it even more unachievable. I hold her stare for a few moments before exhaling. You wouldn't be able to replicate it anyway. Try me. Tsubaki shoots back immediately. I'd also like to know. A calm voice cuts in. Hephaestus approaches with steady steps, her crimson hair shining faintly in the chamber light. Beside her trots Hestia, happily munching on cookies, utterly oblivious to the tension. My lip almost twitches. Does she never get full? And why isn't she protesting against them digging into my secrets? But no, she actually grins at me, clearly waiting for me to show off. I bow slightly. It's an honor to meet you, Lady Hephaestus. Her single red eye softens, and she nods. The pleasure's mine, Ribbon. I'm glad my old friend has someone looking out for her. She reaches down to pat Hestia's head, making the little goddess giggle like a child. Yep, I'm on my own here. Hephaestus straightens and turns back to me. Now, about those bracelets, I've never seen work like that. How did you make them? I glance at Hestia again, hoping she'd actually realize the situation and behave like a goddess. Instead, she looks back with sparkling eyes, tilting her chin up proudly, urging me on as if to say, go ahead, brag about yourself. Wonderful. My options flash through my head. Lying won't work since Hephaestus would see through it immediately. Refusing outright would only sour things. And it's not like Hephaestus is a bad person, she's also really good friends with Hestia. Nodding to myself, I test the waters. It's a skill of mine. My methods wouldn't really be useful to you in any way. Tsubaki looks slightly annoyed and disappointed. Hephaestus, though, tilts her head slightly, studying me with sharp curiosity. Hestia, of course, looks dissatisfied, as if my answer was too boring. I see, Hephaestus says slowly. Then teaching it is impossible. But, I'd still like to observe the process, if you'll allow it. If not, that's fine too, but I'll make it worth your time if you do. My eyes narrow slightly. What's her angle? Oh. And how would you make it worth my time? I ask, keeping my voice curious and casual. Out of the corner of my eye, I glance at Hestia, because if she trusts Hephaestus, I can extend some trust as well. Hestia might be bad at a lot of things, but she's got good intuition in regards to people. Hephaestus smiles faintly. Simple. You can ask for anything. Materials, favors, valis. I simply want to see forging that I don't yet understand. This is definitely a test. She probably wants to know whether I'd leap at the offer like a greedy fool, or show restraint, and determine if I can be trusted with Hestia, her dear, but very gullible friend's future. All I can say is that I'm not a fool. Alright. I say at last, keeping my polite smile. But my skill has a few conditions. I need a reference for the item I'm making, as well as the material to make it. I don't really have any materials to make anything good. Hephaestus nods, not surprised in the least. That's reasonable. She turns her head. Tsubaki. Bring us some adamantite from the storeroom. And fetch the sword in my office as a reference. You can meet us in the forging room. Tsubaki freezes, her eye widening. She looks between us, then back at her goddess. But she doesn't argue. With a short grunt, she turns on her heel and heads out. Hephaestus leads the way, walking calmly with quiet confidence, and I trail just behind with Hestia stubbornly clinging to my side, adamant to remain with us. The halls of the Familia home are wide and clean, the kind of meticulous order and precision you only get from craftsmen who desire for everything to be in place. The faint smell of soot and hot iron hangs in the air with distant hammering ringing through the wall, as we run into the occasional blacksmiths or apprentices who briefly greet Hephaestus, and by extension, Hestia and I, before continuing on their way. As we near the forge, Hestia shoves something under my nose for what feels like the 100th time, a cookie this time. She carries the various snacks in her arms, offering them one by one. Come on, Riven. Just one more bite. She pleads, eyes sparkling with hope and excitement. I sigh, lean down, like every other time she's offered, and humor her with a bite. Well, she presses, stepping closer, almost brushing up against me. It's good. Her whole face lights up. She hums a little tune, rocking side to side with glee. Hephaestus chuckles softly at the sight. You two are already quite close. Of course. Hestia announces proudly, puffing her chest out. We're super close. Hephaestus glances back with a faint smile. I meant closer than most gods and their children manage. That kind of bond is rare. She chuckles a bit. You almost act like lovers. I'm 90% sure she meant it as teasing, but. Hestia's face immediately turns crimson, quickly lowering her head shyly, and trips over her own feet, but I manage to catch her by the shoulders before she actually falls. Why you really think so? She asks softly, taking shy glances towards me. Hephaestus blinks in surprise, as though she hadn't anticipated that kind of response from Hestia. She recovers, though, her expression softening before her heavy gaze flicks toward me. Maybe I underestimated you, Riven. Her lips quirk into a wry smile. Or overestimated Hestia. I would bark out a protest. Something like, it's not what you think. But I've got little reason to explain, and, she's not entirely wrong. So, I instead reach for Hestia's hand. Her head jerks up in shock as I interlock our fingers intimately. Her voice comes out strangled, whisper shout. What are you doing? You've already exposed yourself. I say smugly. Why hide it from your best friend? Her blush deepens to a shade that would make tomatoes jealous. Why you can't just do that? I wasn't ready. So it'd be fine if I did more, once you were. I ask seriously, watching her fidget like a cornered rabbit. More. She echoes, dazed in equal parts horrified and curious. Of course. Stuff like, I whisper to her softly, deliberately dragging the moment out, then pivot, turning away just as Hephaestus pushes the doors open. Oh, we're here. Hestia's eye twitches as she grits her teeth, before smacking my arm with her tiny fists. You did that on purpose. I endure her assault with stoic dignity. Yes, vengeance tastes sweet. That's for abandoning me for cookies and headpats that weren't mine, Hestia. As for whether I was getting revenge more because she threw me under the bus, or getting headpats from Hephaestus, I wasn't entirely sure. The forge fills my vision. The air is hotter, heavier, lit by the dull orange glow of a massive brick furnace that never seems to tire. An anvil rests before it with a hammer laid neatly on top, and a basin of water at the ready beside them both. Various and diverse tools line the walls in precise order, it's basically a blacksmith's heaven. But what truly draws my eye are the weapons and armor piled carefully along one end of the room, steel gleaming faintly in the firelight. I immediately focus on them. Notice. Analysis of weapons and armors complete. No magical effects detected. Of course, if they were valuable, they wouldn't just be sitting here. I sigh inwardly. Why is it so damn hard to find anything magical worth analyzing? Hephaestus Pav, Valka's Crimson Chamber, Forging Room. You don't seem particularly impressed. I finally ask, breaking the quiet. I had been watching him since we entered, how his eyes skimmed over the glowing forge, the neatly arrayed tools, even the walls lined with ore racks. None of it held his attention. His attention locked onto the pile of weapons and armor at the far end of the room, and for a fleeting second, I saw a faint spark of excitement in his eyes. But just as quickly, it dimmed. His expression briefly settled on disappointment, before completely turning neutral. Did he realize they're just spare equipment waiting for storage, or was he hoping for something else? He turns to me. The forging room is impressive. He admits evenly. I give him a small smile. I wasn't referring to the room. A tense silence lingers. Then, with a sigh, he answers. I guess I was slightly disappointed that none of the equipment had any enchantments. I blink. My composure falters for a second. I suppose that would be disappointing. I manage smoothly, though my mind is reeling. He wasn't lying. He knew with absolutely certain that they lack enchantments. But how? I can see that, yes, but only up close, if the enchantment isn't obvious, through touch and skill. But he did it at a glance, and from so far away. Could it just be ignorance? Are you interested in enchanted equipment, then? I ask carefully. Of course. He replies matter-of-factly. Any adventurer would be. I nod, masking my suspicion. If I let him know I'm suspicious, it would only make him cautious, and right now, I want to see how he thinks, not scare him into silence. The tour continues. He asks questions, and at first I think I know what to expect, the curiosity of a new adventurer dazzled by the workings of a forge. But his inquiries weave between bafflingly simple and startlingly advanced. One moment he's asking about the importance of airflow, the next he's discussing folding techniques like someone who's studied metallurgy for years. It's inconsistent, but not something that can be faked. Did you learn everything yourself? I ask eventually, unable to help myself. He nods casually. Read it in some books at the guild library. I hide my frown. The guild's books barely cover the basics. Just enough to keep amateurs from melting their hands off. If this is truly what he gleaned from that, then either he's a genius beyond reason, or his skill is doing far more work than he admits. I steal a glance at Hestia, who's long since grown bored of our exchange. She sits perched on a stool, chin resting in her hand, staring into the furnace with her snacks in the other. Every so often, she sneaks a glance our way, her expression alternating between sulking and pouting. As much as I'd like him in my familia, I can't just take my friend's first and only familia member. Especially when she struggled so much to get one. My thoughts are interrupted as the door opens. I've brought the materials and sword. Tsubaki strides in, her usual sharp grin in place, carrying a sack large enough to make most men stagger. She drops it with a heavy thud, and rare metals spill onto the floor like common stones. And at her hip, she carries a longsword. Carefully, almost reverently, she unbuckles it and places it in my hand. I draw it slowly, acting casual, but my eyes are on Riven, rigorously assessing his reaction. It's plain at first glance. No embellishment, no shine to catch the eye. To a common adventurer, it would seem unremarkable. But to a smith, this blade is perfect. Balance, edge, durability. The summit of craftsmanship, the work of a divine hand. My divine hand. I raise it slightly. What do you think? He studies the weapon in silence for a few seconds. Then he nods slowly. My chest lifts, only to sink as he shakes his head. Disappointment, again. My brows knit. What's wrong? He exhales softly. I'm frustrated, he says at last. Whoever made this is a master. Truly. This sword is almost perfect. Tsubaki stiffens beside me. But, he continues, his tone infuriatingly casual. It fell short. Almost perfect. I repeat slowly, my eye narrowing because I know what he's saying isn't a lie. Tsubaki bristles. Oi, brat. But I raise a hand to stop her, my gaze never leaving him. Because I want to hear his answer. What could he possibly see that I, the goddess of smithing, could have missed? Asterisk 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 asterisk. Hello everyone. How are you all? If you've enjoyed the chapter and book thus far, please consider leaving me some comments, reviews, or power stones. It really helps the book out. The last POV was what delayed it by a day. Which I personally think was the best part. Once again, sorry for the wait. So, on to the chapter. Yeah, cliffhangerkin strikes again. Wonderful, right upside down face. The reasons Ribbon calls it almost perfect will be given next chapter, and she'll be shook. They'll be quite pretty too, it'll be funny rolling on the floor laughing. Hopefully Tsubaki doesn't beat him up before then. There was some light fluff with Hestia, but I kind of found it hard to really do the dialogue between them, plus I don't know much about their familia home, as well as much info about the sword. I tried my research, asked for help, and this is what I've come up with, and hopefully it's right, please be right, and that even with those plot holes, it was still enjoyable. I also won't keep Riven away from enchantments for much longer. My biggest worry being that he makes himself adamantite gear and basically becomes unstoppable, which ruins all fun. But he's a bit fucked in the head, so he'll probably not use it for thrills, unless necessary, of course. Won't die for Prides, don't worry. You can also read 10 chapters ahead and support me at patreon.com/amweekly. But yeah, that's all from me. I hope you all have a great night per day grin. 47 comments 0 vote. 26 even gods need critics. Ribbon POV, Valka's Crimson Chamber. Despite Tsubaki's outburst, I don't flinch. My attention stays fixed on the longsword in Hephaestus's hand. Answer. While the sword is flawless by all mortal standards, symmetry, balance, atomic uniformity, edge sharpness, durability, etc., it falls short of perfection. That was GS's verdict the moment I asked. And how does it fall short? Answer. The crystalline structure of the steel reveals a 0.000003% misalignment of atoms caused by inherent thermal stress during forging. The imperfections are below detectability, but represent deviation from material ideality. A detailed list of metrics followed. Most of them were irrelevant, and some bordered on pedantic. The only points that really mattered were the microscopic impurities in the alloy and the edge sharpness. Finding. Edge width approximates to 8 atoms. Maximum theoretical sharpness of 1 atom not achieved. I stare at the blade, unimpressed. Petty. Even if it was 1 atom wide, the edge would break unless different materials or magic were used. Conclusion. Blade is 99.9999997% perfect. The craftsmanship is divine, but constrained by physical laws. Therefore, it is not truly perfect, merely flawless given the limitations. GS's words were as brutal as they were true. By every conventional measure, this was a masterpiece. By GS's standards, it was, almost okay. To be fair, my initial disappointment came from me expecting it to have enchantments I can analyze. Instead, it was just a sword, an extraordinary sword, yes, but still one I could outmatch with GS and Predator. Even so, this is craftsmanship I probably can't replicate by hand, even with years of effort. The moment Hephaestus unsheathed it, I knew it was her work. Which meant there was no point lying and saying I was amazed. If I called it perfect, she'd see right through me. Dealing with gods really is inconvenient. I lift my gaze to meet hers, and speak plainly. Before I say anything, just know, I'm not trying to be petty. This is just my honest opinion. Her face is filled with a calm, but expectant seriousness. Go on, she says. Beside her, Tsubaki narrows her eye, her glare promising violence if I so much as breathe disrespect toward her goddess's work. First flaw, the atoms are misaligned by about 0.000003% due to thermal stress. It's impossible to notice with the naked eye, but here, and here. I trace the areas on the blade, places that looked pristine to me without GS's vision. Tsubaki leans in, scowling, clearly seeing nothing. But Hephaestus furrows her brow, tapping the sword lightly and scrutinizing the metal. Her expression shifts ever so slightly with each point I call out. She doesn't confirm or deny anything, only lowering the blade slightly. Then, in a voice laced with steel. Is that everything you found imperfect? Did she see them too, or is she letting me dig a deeper grave? I exhale. No. There's more. I go down GS's list, though carefully. I leave out the absurd, like fundamental limits of matter, and stick to the reasonable, like microscopic impurities likely introduced during forging, infinitesimal stresses that even she couldn't avoid due to minuscule thermal differences. Each word I say makes the silence in the room heavier. By the time I finish, everyone is frozen. Tsubaki looks like she wants to throttle me. Even Hestia has stopped chewing her snacks, blinking at me. And Hephaestus just stares at the sword. I brace for anger, maybe even an accusation. Instead, ha ha ha. Hephaestus bursts into laughter. Genuine, rich laughter that echoes through the chamber. She grins, running her fingers down the blade with something close to joy. So even this wasn't perfect after all, seems I still have a lot of improving to do. Tsubaki and I both blink at her in shock. This sword, Hephaestus continues, holding it up, I use it to test prospective smiths of my familia. Those who can recognize its craftsmanship are talented. But the ones who see that and desire to learn from it, and strive to one day create something of its level, or surpass it, those are the true blacksmiths of Hephaestus familia. Her words carry weight. Even Hestia sits a little straighter, paying attention for once. Then Hephaestus sheathes the sword, turning to me with a warm, genuine smile. Thank you, Riven, for reminding me that there are always greater heights to reach. You're welcome. I manage, more confused than anything. She chuckles softly. You're wondering why I'm not angry. Yeah, honestly, all my reasons could be called nitpicking. Fixing them would take unimaginable effort, or just be flat out impossible. It's just not worth it. She shakes her head firmly. That's where you're wrong. I teach my familia never to give up in the face of impossibility. If I surrendered for the same reason, what kind of hypocrite would I be? Her conviction leaves me quiet. I'm not a blacksmith. I don't have their pride or the obsession that fuels her craft. To me, the result matters more than the process. But to her, the journey is worth infinitely more than the destination. I'll continue striving to forge the perfect blade, she says, her eye narrowing with an almost playful glint. And when I do, I expect you to be the one to appraise it. Even gods need critics. I'm definitely not a fan of her gaze. It's just more work for me. Before I can protest, Hephaestus, you're not allowed to steal ribbon from me. Hestia leaps up from her stool, spilling crumbs everywhere, and clings to my arm like a koala. She glares fiercely at Hephaestus, though her cheeks are puffed in childish indignation. As tempting as that is, Hephaestus teases, smiling slyly. I wouldn't do that to you, Hestia. Hestia just tightens her grip, her small frame practically hanging off of my arm. Anyway, Hephaestus continues as if nothing happened. We came here to see how Ribbon forged that bracelet, didn't we? And just like that, the spotlight lands squarely back on me. So I have to do it anyway. I sigh inwardly, staring at the ores scattered on the table. At the very least, it shouldn't be this disappointing. I had agreed hoping to copy an enchanted item. If that's no longer possible, then can I create whatever I want? I ask, my tone curious. Hephaestus tilts her head, arching an eyebrow. Of course. I'd rather see you make something you'd actually use. Her lips curl into a small smile, but her visible eye sharpens, watching me like a hawk. So much for my skill needing a reference. With some effort I peel Hestia off me, and approach the ores Tsubaki had hauled in. I might as well make something actually useful to my current situation. I decide. Gauntlets come to mind first, since my fists are my main weapons. But if I can't defeat it barehanded, gauntlets wouldn't help much. I sigh inwardly. So what weapon would be best? The answer comes quickly. I glance away from the ores, turning to Hephaestus again with my most charming smile. The suspicion in her gaze only deepens. Before I begin, could I ask for a favor? I say smoothly. Hestia immediately stiffens, bristling as though I'd just stabbed her in the back. Hephaestus folds her arms. What do you need? Could I observe a weapon with the Durandal attribute? If you have one available. Yeah, it's greedy. But I can already guess she'll accept, either out of curiosity, or out of gratitude for igniting her drive. Her eye narrows. Just to observe. I nod. She studies me for a moment before sighing. Very well. Tsubaki, she calls, bring him something with Durandal. I've got one in for maintenance. Tsubaki replies immediately, shooting me a sharp look. I'll fetch it. She walks out, leaving the room in a quiet silence. Hephaestus doesn't let it last. Why? She asks simply. Why Durandal, of all things? I give her a sly smile. Wouldn't you rather be surprised? Her sigh is long and resigned, albeit amused. Your trouble, she mutters. Oh. While we wait, I cut in. Hestia wanted to learn how to lock a falna. Could you teach her? Ah. Right. Hestia yelps, eyes going wide. I totally forgot. She laughs sheepishly, scratching her cheek. Unreliable as always. I think, as Hephaestus begins explaining the technique. I drown myself in a silent discussion with Great Sage, reviewing the materials, testing combinations, already forming the idea in my mind. It's a shame there's no orichalcum, but the materials provided are already quite generous. The door slams open. I'm back. Tsubaki bellows, a longsword slung casually over her shoulder. She tosses it my way without hesitation. I catch it easily. Notice. Beginning analysis. My eyes trace the blade while Great Sage dissects it in the background, and 72 seconds later. Notice. Analysis complete. Durandal attribute copied. Perfect. Thanks, GS. I hand the weapon back to Tsubaki, who blinks. Already? Yeah, I answer casually. Told you it wouldn't take long. Hephaestus's brow furrows, but she simply continues to observe. I turn back to the ores, no point hiding what can't be hidden. One by one, I absorb them. Impure adamantite for durability, Ceros which boosts magic, mithril for its high magic conductivity, and leather. Each vanishes into black smoke as it's pulled into stomach. Hephaestus's eye widens. Tsubaki curses in shock. Hestia just beams like a proud mother. Ribbon's amazing, isn't he? She says smugly. Neither of them answer and I ignore them. Let's get to work. Notice. Beginning item creation. Inside my stomach, materials shift and coil. The Ceros mineral stretches, forming S-bin-like lattice. Next, the mithril wraps around it. The Ceros would boost the power of any magic, while mithril lets it travel smoothly. Finally, Pure adamantite encases it all, shaping a hilt, cross guard, and blade. Branching lines of mithril gleam faintly across the midnight blue adamantite, like a tree of lightning frozen within beautiful steel. The blade emerges whole, wide-guarded, thick at the core, tapering to a perfect edge, and its surface alive with capillary-like silver threads. Notice: should the Durandal attribute be added, magical energy will be consumed. Wait, what? I didn't know adding attributes consumes magic. Answer: magic is consumed as the blacksmith DA is not available to facilitate the process. How much mind will it consume? Answer: attribute strength is determined by amount of magic power utilized. Current magic power reserves can achieve 3.2% of the true Durandal attribute. My lip almost twitches. I should have saved those magic stones. I lament, resolving to do so in future. By true Durandal, do you mean the attribute on the sword? I ask. Answer: incorrect. The Durandal attribute attached to the sword is at 5% potency. A true Durandal at 100% would achieve infinite durability. I freeze. I can actually make an indestructible weapon. Answer: yes. Required magic power rises exponentially as the true Durandal attribute is achieved. So effectively, with all my magic power at level 1, I achieve 3.2% compared to what a normal level 5 blacksmith achieves passively through their DA. It seems worse, but it will rise as I raise my magic stat, and eventually surpass them. A grin spreads across my face. Then let's do it. Notice: adding Durandal attribute. Consuming 99% of available magic power to prevent mine down. A wave of mental exhaustion slams into me, but I ignore it thanks to Iron Heart. The actual process is almost instantaneous, and the sword is then complete, radiating a quiet, but terrifying majesty. I exhale slowly, admiring it as it floats in the metaphysical space of stomach. I wonder how Hephaestus and Tsubaki will react. I smirk mischievously. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Hello everyone. How are you all doing? If you've enjoyed the chapter and book thus far, please consider leaving me some comments, reviews, or power stones. It really helps the book out. So, yeah, this is the chapter. I made a few changes to canon. I always wondered why Durandal wasn't truly indestructible, since Ice's sword can break, and weapons can become blunt, so I made some changes to allow for that to change. Next, the sword looks almost like the one in the picture. The veins just face the other direction and are more numerous. Think tree's branches. As for a few other things, mainly the reactions to Predator. I'm getting there. I'll be doing a Hestia, maybe Tsubaki Pav next chapter, which'll show just how shaken they are. And yeah, GS is pretty. 0.000003% is nuts. Like I said before, Ribbon was disappointed because he didn't get a sword with an attribute. He's actually quite impressed with Heffy's work, since even he doubts he could make something as great through actual forging, but he cares more about getting a good sword than the process itself. Maybe Heffy will change that one day, maybe not, we'll see. But she's pretty much a confirmed love interest, so either way, there'll be more interactions. You can also read 10 chapters ahead and support me at patreon.com/amweekly. There isn't really much to say this chapter, so I'll end it here. I hope everyone has a great date night, and I hope you enjoyed Grin. 40 comments 0 vote. 27, study to learn, not copy. Hephaestus Pav, Valka's Crimson Chamber. That black smoke, is it a spatial storage skill, or some part of his forging skill? I wonder silently as the last of the materials vanish into it. My mind turns over possibilities, but I can't confirm any of them. I glance sideways. Tsubaki's eyes glitter with the hunger of seeing something exciting. I know that look. She's already imagining how convenient such a skill would be. Expeditions would change overnight if we could store every last scrap of material. We could dive deeper, harvest more, return without needing to haul it all back. Even I feel the temptation, enough to glance toward the smug Hestia lounging nearby. She catches my look and smirks knowingly, chin raised as if saying, "That's my child, not yours." I huff a breath, half exasperated, half amused. Asking Hestia the Familia can take Ribbon on expeditions isn't unreasonable, is it? I don't. Ribbon would mind if he's compensated, and Hestia would probably help me convince him. But my musings shatter the moment Tsubaki snaps forward, putting herself between me and Ribbon with startling speed. Her stance is sharp-obed protective, like she's bracing for war. I raise an eyebrow. Tsubaki. What's wrong? Her one visible eye narrows on him. I felt Riven use a lot of mind. I'm just making sure you're safe if anything happens, Lady Hephaestus. Her voice is calm but her body is primed for action. I don't think she actually expect Riven to attack me, but she won't take chances either. Riven exhales as though unaware of Tsubaki's unease, before a sly smirk tugs his lips. I'm done, he says casually. I open my mouth to caution him against rushing the process when. Let me see. Let me see. Hestia squeals, darting forward. She nearly bumps into Riven, eyes shining like a child begging for candy. I catch the confident gleam in his eyes, and the corner of my lip curls despite myself. Then, instead of pressing, I murmur lightly, yes, Riven. Care to show us the finished product, if you truly think it's finished. My words give him the chance to back out if he was bluffing and needs more time. Although, that'd be quite disappointing, I sigh internally. I really hope he didn't cut any corners. But Riven only nods, raising his hand. The black smoke pours out once more, coiling and expanding, sculpting itself into a shape that makes my heart thunder as the haze slowly dissolves. And then, a great sword gleams before us, and my eye goes wide. Blue. A deep, heavy blue, shimmering with the metallic glow of pure adamantite. But laced through it are rivers of argent light, mithril. The two metals, merged seamlessly, running like veins of silver lightning across the blade. My throat goes dry. That's not possible. Adamantite is extremely hard to forge, much less making such diverse and fine ridges to pour mithril into. And it's unlikely it was performed that way, given there aren't any deformations on the blade. Beside me, Tsubaki's mouth hangs open, words lost. Any knowledge of smithing seemingly thrown out the window. And before either of us can speak, Hestia cocks her head. Oh, so this is the sword. She says, peering at it critically like she's judging fabric at a market, then, she nods. It's really pretty. Just like our bracelets. She lifts her wrist beside the blade, grinning at the comparison. Maybe we can hang it up in our room as decoration. That'll really rub it in Loki's face. There's no way she has a prettier sword. Ha! I nearly choke. You'd use it as decoration. The corner of my mouth twitches and I bite down a frustrated sigh and summoning all my willpower not to lash out. Instead, my voice grinds through clenched teeth. Quote. Riven. May I see the sword? Tsubaki's nod is frantic, her eagerness spilling where my composure holds. Sure thing. His tone is easy, but when he sets the weapon in my hands. The weight, the balance, the harmony of metals that can't be forged together. My fingers tremble as I trace the blade. The word slips out before I can stop it, breathless, reverent. It seems perfect. The only thing stopping me from declaring it as such was me having been humbled a few minutes prior. The chamber falls silent around me, save for the faint hum of divinity resonating from steel. Tsubaki inhales sharply beside me, unable to resist. This forging, she steps closer, I riveted to every seam. It's flawless. No joints, no weakness, Lady Hephaestus, the two metals, how did he? I don't know. I whisper, because I truly don't. I even hesitate to correct Tsubaki when she marvels aloud at the blend of adamantite and mithril, biting my tongue before adding that there's a third metal at play, which is Saros hidden within the intricate mithril patterns, and perhaps even more that I haven't identified yet. If I'm wrong, it would be humiliating. I sigh inwardly, letting the thought go, and allow myself to simply admire the blade. Riven, meanwhile, seems utterly unbothered by the reverence surrounding him. He drifts away from our scrutiny, speaking idly with Hestia. I catch fragments of their conversation. Something about using the sword himself, against larger monsters like orcs. I glance up curiously. He's already planning to fight monsters that deep only a few days after receiving Falna. My chest tightens, not with fear, but with a bewildered sort of respect. The more I learn of him, the less I understand. Beside me, Tsubaki and I continue our quiet, feverish analysis, turning the blade over, hunting desperately for imperfections that simply aren't there. Ribbon Pav, Valka's Crimson Chamber. I guess we can use it to decorate our room, if you don't mind me fighting orcs and infant dragons barehanded. Hestia freezes, then pouts, her cheeks puffed and arms crossed like a sulking child. That's not fair. It's too pretty to just bash things with. She huffs, and then turns away with an exaggerated sniff. Fine. But you have to make me something even better next time. I blink at her, dumbfounded. What do you want? A sword forged out of orichalcum just so you can show off to Loki. The thought makes me groan inwardly. Maybe I'll just remake this one an inch longer. That technically counts as better, right? Still, I smile and bow my head slightly. Sure thing, goddess. One day, I'll make a better one. I say it seriously, because I know she'll never drop it otherwise. Her eyes narrow. Quote. Something's suspicious. What do you mean? I ask, genuinely confused. You can tell I'm not lying. She squints at me for a long moment, searching for some crack in my mask, but I keep my expression as sincere as possible. Eventually, she sighs in mock defeat. All right, fine. I'll believe you. Her words drip with reluctant acceptance, but her smug little smile betrays her satisfaction. I stifle my laugh and let the atmosphere calm down. When I look back, Hephaestus and Tsubaki are still locked on the blade like starving wolves. Their fingers trace every groove, every impossible seam, eyes shining with scholarly hunger. In me, I feel nothing regarding the blade. No pride. No thrill. I don't even consider it my accomplishment, even if GS and Predator are parts of me. They'll never replicate it. Not with the method I used. I sigh inwardly. Which makes all this dissecting feel pointless. Hephaestus chooses that moment to lift her gaze to me, one eye gleaming with curiosity. What are you thinking about, Ribbon? I blink. Do the gods have some sort of divine intuition, or is her timing just cursedly good? What makes you think I've got anything to say? I counter lightly. She smiles faintly. Even if you're good at hiding your thoughts, staring silently at someone with that expression is enough to make them assume you do. I quirk a brow. Couldn't I just be waiting for you to finish your appraisal? She shakes her head. No. You're not that impatient. So, was there something you wanted to say? I pause, then nod once. You can tell, can't you? The sword, and the method I used, can't be replicated through smithing. So what's the point of studying it? I ask, genuinely curious. Her lips curve into a knowing, almost maternal smile. We don't study to copy. We study to learn. Even if your method can't be reproduced, it may inspire a new one. A spark can become a fire in someone else's forge. I stare at her for a long moment, and against my will, I feel the corner of my mouth twitch. I can't help but admire that. So I let them be, letting their hungry curiosity burn while I turn back to Hestia. Time slips by. Minutes stretch until we eventually reach half an hour, and they're still poring over the exact same section of blade, utterly absorbed. Hestia, of course, has grown bored. She sulks dramatically, then plops herself in my lap without warning, curling up like a cat and nuzzling into my chest, and within minutes, she's fallen asleep. Hephaestus notices it, but chooses to ignore us. I don't mind being a pillow for Hestia. If anything, I enjoy it. But still. They're never going to finish, are they? Lady Hephaestus. I sigh finally. I don't think we're needed here. Would you like to keep the sword for the night? Without even glancing up, she answers, her tone firm. Thank you for your consideration. We'll deliver it once we're finished. I can only sigh. Then we'll be leaving. Carefully, I adjust Hestia in my arms, lifting her without waking her, and turn toward the door. Hephaestus and Tsubaki don't even acknowledge us, lost in their obsession. But that's fine. I achieved what I came for. Hestia can now lock my Falna. And I can imbue items with Durandal. Could I just make a really sharp stick, enchant it with Durandal and call it a blade? Maybe I'll slice through Isis desperate with it, just to see her expression. The thought makes me chuckle to myself as I leave the forging room. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Hello everyone. How are you all? If you've enjoyed the chapter and book thus far, please consider leaving me some comments, reviews, or power stones. It really helps the book out. So, let's jump right into the chapter. I'm so sleepy, so please forgive me loudly crying. I'm a bit unhappy with this chapter. Lots of things I wanted to do, but decided to abandon. I wanted to stretch Ribbon appreciate KNG Heffy's passion, and turn that into some romance building, but no. I also wanted to maybe stretch the lap sitting and turn it into romance, but no. I've realized trying to do everything in a day is tough, so I'll slow down and return to once every second day. As for other things, I wanted the spatial storage stuff to be more exciting, but didn't know how yet. They'll confirm it's spatial storage, and there'll probably be more reactions there. As well as Heffy getting her chance soon. I actually also want to confirm the love interests soon, so the voting on Discord and here Patreon should happen in a week or so. Please suggest characters to nominate. Other than a few popular ones, I suppose I won't add those who aren't nominated. Then, I guess, I'll be doing more action soon. A bit of dungeon diving, before finalizing everything that's been set up these last few chapters, like the shop, the familia home, Lily, etc. So yeah, that's my plan. 28. Setting up. Ribbon Pav, church basement room. I open my eyes, a familiar weight pressing against my chest. Looking down, I find Hestia once again sprawled on top of me, fast asleep. So we're not even pretending anymore. I sigh inwardly. Last night, after we returned, she had woken up just long enough to lock my falna. With that, no one else will be able to read it, even if they can read the language. Then, instead of letting me sleep on the couch, she grabbed my sleeve, pulled me into her bed, and declared that if we were just going to end up waking up in the same bed anyway, we might as well go to sleep together too. And she was blushing like a ripe tomato the whole time, despite being bold enough to say it. I've got to give her credit for that. The upside is obvious. TGE bed is much more comfortable than the couch, so I'll sleep more peacefully. The downside, depending on how you look at it, constantly having a hot goddess pressed up against you all night is a huge test of willpower and self-control. Without Iron Heart, she wouldn't have had such a peaceful night. I sigh internally. So, like most mornings lately, I lie still to not wake her, and let my thoughts drift onto what I should do today. I'd like to hit the dungeon, but if I want to go deeper, I'll need my greatsword back from Hephaestus. Orcs, minotaurs, silverbacks, I'm not quite ready to crack their skulls barehanded, yet. Even if I don't feel pain, I don't want to break my hands if it doesn't cause them much damage. As for ice, I'll have to wait on Loki Familia's decision. I doubt they'd agree so quickly, or at all, especially with Loki protesting so much. Not just because I'm untrustworthy, but also due to my goddess being Hestia. Loki's too prideful to accept it so easily. Which means, realistically, today's agenda is simple. Step 1. Have Hestia quit her job at the Jagamarukun stand. Step 2. Set up the clothing shop. I run the numbers again. After the date, I've got about 330k Valis left. The date alone 840k, excluding the adamantite I bought, but that's fine. 200,000 should cover enough materials for renovations, as well as making adventurer clothing, civilian wear, and even some clothes targeted towards gods. I'll use the rest to start fixing up the church. Even if the Apollo Familia still targets us and lose their manor in a few months, we'll still be living here until then. It also holds sentimental value, so it'd be good to fix it up. There's also no guarantee Apollo would still target us since the future might change. Then, Great Sage and I begin sketching mental outlines of sturdy, breathable clothing for adventurers using monster materials, affordable everyday wear for civilians, and higher-end designs for gods that are based on different cultural pantheons. And of course, an option to custom order clothing, provided the client supplies rare materials or covers the cost. I nod to myself, satisfied, while GS makes sure I haven't overlooked anything, filling in details and making improvements. Then, a soft groan interrupts our planning. Good morning, goddess. I say quietly as Hestia stirs. Morning, she mumbles, her voice full of lingering drowsiness. She pushes herself up, stretching her arms high and yawning. Since she'd been lying across me, I'm immediately rewarded with the sight of her breasts bouncing with the motion as they strain against her normal dress. I don't bother to look away. Why should I? She's my goddess, and I'll graciously accept the grace she's bestowed upon me. Unfortunately for me, she lowers her arms at the exact moment I'm appreciating the view, and her face instantly turns red. What are you staring at? She squeals, flailing forward and slapping both hands over my face and inaccurately covering my eyes. The move is clumsy, awkward, and far too rough for the job, but it does the trick. It's fine to sleep in the same bed, but I can't look. I ask, amused, prying her hands off gently so I can see her embarrassed face. Her blush deepens. It's not the same, she mutters, her voice small, before she quickly slips out of my grip and hops away like a startled cat. She points a finger at me accusingly. Why you can't just stare so blatantly? Oh. I tilt my head. So is the problem that I stared, or that I stared too obviously? Her teeth grind audibly. You're impossible. She yells, stomping her foot, before quickly turning and dashing out of the room. Even as she flees, I make out her cherry red face between her bouncing twin tails. I chuckle to myself. She didn't actually say I couldn't stare, though, just that I can't be blatant about it. Shaking my head, I swing my legs off the bed and stretch. Time to get moving. I've got a lot to do today. The hours blur together, though not without effort. Convincing Hestia to quit her job was easier than expected. Once I told her she'd be more help running the shop, her resistance crumbled. She pouted a little, of course, but the thought of working together lit her up enough that I knew she'd never look back. From there, it was all errands. I had to purchase the materials first. Wood, iron, and material for fabric. Carrying it all was way with Predator, and why hire a familia to renovate when I've got stomach and great sage? In short order, racks, shelves, counters, stools, mannequins, a full store interior took shape, in an efficient and precise manner. Then came research. I visited neighboring clothing stores, asking where they got their materials. A few smiles, some small talk, and offering them some samples of high-quality fabric GS and I made as gifts, made as quick friends. The material was smooth, strong, breathable, and of a quality they've likely never seen before. Their eyes practically sparkled, asking where I got it, until I told them it's self-made. If clothing failed, selling fabric alone would be enough to get rich. At the guild, I picked up monster leathers, minotaur hide, almiraj fur, orc skin. Nothing extravagant, but perfect for adventure or gear. Better materials were far out of budget for now, and I'd sooner or later be able to procure them myself. By the time I'd spent the allotted 200k on supplies, I was satisfied. Another 50k went into stone and wood to eventually repair the church. With Predator, I could recycle most of the ruined beams and tiles, but fresh material was still needed for the parts that can't be salvaged. Fixing the church wasn't urgent, I'd get to it when I could. For now, the shop was stocked, the renovations complete, and the day nearly gone. Late afternoon sunlight painted the street gold as I headed north to collect Hestia. Hestia Pav, street near Familia Church. La 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 la, I hum happily, skipping down the street and pulling Riven along by the hand. You seem awfully cheerful for someone who was sulking at the thought of quitting her job this morning. Riven observes dryly, keeping pace beside me. Normally I'd shoot him a glare, but I'm too happy to waste energy. Of course I'm cheerful. The shop looks amazing. I beam at him, practically bouncing with excitement. The shelves, the mannequins, the fabrics, everything looks so lively now. Nothing like that dusty, desolate place yesterday. My chest swells with pride. We're definitely going to make a fortune. Riven sighs, ever the realist. It'll take a while before we reach that stage. Building a reputation and brand takes time. I wave him off, refusing to let him dampen my mood. Nonsense. The clothes you made are gorgeous, and once people see them, everyone will want them. I believe it. He exhales again, defeated. All right, goddess. Everything you say is right. But the tiny smile on his lips betrays him. I grin, ready to tease him. Huh. The shrill, obnoxious voice crashes into my ears. You came personally to deliver it. No way that shrimp could afford anything from you. I freeze, twitch, then bristle. The hand in mine slips free as I stomp ahead, fists clenched. Who are you calling a shrimp, you flat-chested hag? I shout, my voice echoing down the street. The offender, Loki, recoils. Of course it's Loki. She bares her teeth, recovering quickly. Who said that? She sneers, shielding her eyes as if searching for something. Then, with exaggerated slowness, her gaze dips. Oh, there you are. Didn't see you down there. Her grin widens wickedly. Steam all but bursts from my ears. I lunge, ready to throttle her, but arms hook around me from behind, locking me in place. A hand clamps gently but firmly over my mouth. Lady Loki. Lady Hephaestus. Riven's calm voice rumbles behind me. A pleasure to meet you both again. His tone doesn't waver as he inclines his head slightly. And nice to see the rest of you too. Wait. The rest of them. I blink, suddenly aware of the crowd I'd been too focused to notice. On one side, Hephaestus and Tsubaki, watching with clear amusement. On the other, Loki's familia. Riveria, Ice, and two others I don't recognize. All of them staring and seemingly exhausted by their goddess's behavior. And me, caught mid-outburst, dangling like an angry kitten in Riven's arms, turns beet red. Not because of my outburst. But because Riven's holding me so tightly. I squeal internally, struggling slightly in embarrassment, rather than anger. Riven Pav, Hestia Familia, Church. Hestia wriggles furiously in my grip, muffled threats spilling against my palm. Why is she fighting so hard? Does she really enjoy trading insults with Loki this much? I wonder, tightening my hold before she wriggles free. With Hestia secured, I turn my focus to the crowd in front of our church. Most I recognize, but a few new faces stand out. The first is a barefoot Amazoness, black hair cut to her shoulders, green eyes lively with curiosity. A tube top and pareo leave little to the imagination, and her grin is wide as she waves. Tiona, characterized by her small chest. I return the gesture with a smile, my hands too with my squirming goddess to wave back. Next, an elf stands further back, golden hair tied into a neat ponytail, and dark blue eyes. She wears a pink cape above a white shirt, and pink corset dress. She's one of the core members of the familia, Lefia. Unlike Tiona's friendliness, she stares with bristling caution, as though my existence alone is offensive. It's probably because of Ice. I sigh. Speaking of, Ice watches me intently, her face just as blank as always. There's no judgment or hostility, more something akin to a desire to fight me burning in her eyes. I nod at her, and she simply tilts her head, but at least she received the message. Riveria, dignified as ever, inclines her head slightly. I return the gesture in kind. Loki, meanwhile, is glaring daggers at me, her smile twisting like she's caught between annoyance and disbelief. I give her a pleasant smile in return. On the opposite side stand Hephaestus and Tsubaki. Hephaestus offers me a warm smile, but her tired eyes betray her lack of rest. Before I can ask, Tsubaki cuts in, full of energy. Ribbon, where've you been hiding? She calls, hands on her hips, grin wide. We've been waiting out here for ages. I was busy with some things. I answer simply, shifting Hestia in my arms. Didn't think you'd finish with it so quickly. Did you even sleep last night? Tsubaki arches an eyebrow, intrigued. Sharp eye. How'd you tell? I glance at Hephaestus. She looks tired. Tsubaki bursts into loud, booming laughter, clapping her thigh. Ha! He's got you pegged, Lady Hephaestus. Hephaestus sighs but steps forward, cradling something in her hands. The greatsword, secured in a sheath of minotaur hide. She holds it out towards me. Thank you for letting us examine it. She says, her voice calm but tinged with exhaustion. We learned a great deal. I'd like to discuss it with you in detail later, but, her gaze slides toward Loki, it seems you're already occupied. Loki's squinty eyes snap open at that, her smugness faltering. The disbelief on her face is enough to stop Hestia from struggling, as she smugly gloats in silence. I accept the greatsword with a nod. I'm glad it was useful. And I've got plenty I'd like to learn in return. Finally, I release Hestia's mouth. She immediately glares at me, cheeks puffed, but, for once, holds her tongue. She stays close, though, hugging my arm, pressing it between her chest possessively, as though afraid someone might steal me. Hephaestus gives me one last small smile. I'll be waiting. Tsubaki follows, pausing long enough to punch me lightly in the arm. Don't keep us waiting too long. She grins. The blow lands like a hammer, though I keep my expression smooth. A level 5's, gentle tap, is anything but gentle. Good thing I don't feel pain. As they depart, I turn back to the Loki familia. Every eye is on me now, curious, suspicious, and filled with disbelief. Now, dealing with them will be an actual pain. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Hello everyone. How are you? If you've enjoyed the chapter and book thus far, please consider leaving me some comments, reviews, or power stones. It really helps the book out. To be honest, I don't like time skips even if it's a really short one, but it's quite necessary. Melting face. Ribbon has set up the shop, and Hestia will start working there. Then, I decided to have the Loki familia aware of Hefi and Ribbon's collaboration, which will make them agreeing to work with him more likely. Overall, I'm trying to have things mesh together. Also, which is the main motivation. It'd have taken quite a bit of everything happened one after the other, so I merged them. I'm considering having a few spars next with the Loki familia, since it'd make sense for them to want to test Ribbon. Does that seem unnecessary? Then, after all this is done, I want him going into the dungeon, and some unexpected flags will pop up. I'm sure we'd realize the danger when we see it. Tears of joy. Also, I'm thinking of deciding the love interests soon. Makes it easier to determine who gets screen time. So please nominate some people. You can also read 10 chapters ahead, and support me at patreon.com/ambweekly. Anyway, that's all from me. I hope you all have a pleasant day. Night grin.